Hi, I'm Yellow Sleeves and today is a new guitar day for me. This is my Sire H7V in a vintage sunburst. Now, I'm about to turn 33 in a few days, and I've always really liked 335 guitars from Gibson, Epiphone, you know, the electro-Spanish kind of style of guitar, semi-hollow, nice maple block in the center. So I've been thinking, because I'm turning 33, and because it's been about 5 years since I rediscovered my passion for music and playing the guitar, 33, 5, 335, it just kind of clicked. So I figured, what if I buy myself, for my birthday, as a gift to myself, a 335 style guitar? You know what? If you also do this type of mental gymnastics whenever you buy a new instrument, just let me know in the comments. I'm really curious to hear what your thinking process is. But anyway, enough about that. Let's have a look at the guitar. This video isn't really meant to be a full-fledged review, even though I'm going to be expressing all sorts of opinions, but it's a lot more of a first impressions type of video, unboxing, checking it out. You're gonna see me seeing it for the first time, so it's more in that sort of area. Finally, time to unbox it. Let's see if it's actually as good as I hope it is. Having my trusty box cutter. Okay. It looks like it's the right color. What do we have here? We have, we have a long Allen key, and we have a small Allen key. Quality assurance certification from Anderton's. Video not sponsored. And here it is. Nothing else in the box from what I can see, other than a Ernie ball thing and a Sire thing. I'm pretty nervous, I'm not gonna lie. I've been wanting this guitar for so long, and it's finally here, and I really hope it's good. Oof. Some scratches on the fingerboard already, not happy about that. And there we have it. So, off the bat, fretboard is in a really not great condition. It looks milky. Not entirely sure what's up with that. I'm gonna be applying a little bit of lemon oil to this. Hopefully that's gonna get rid of some of this milky tint. If anyone in the comment section knows what this is all about, let me know. I'm very curious to find out. And also very keen on making it so that it looks a little bit nicer. It's really good that this was on to protect the pickup switch. I like that. I'm having a little look at the wiring through the F-hole, and it looks pretty neat. The binding on this is actually quite nice. I know a lot of folks praise the binding on these, but it's actually pretty nice. Let's have a look at the flame. Honestly, I was kind of hoping for a bit of a nicer flame. A lot of the material online looks like the flame top is a little bit nicer. The back is quite nice. I do like this. Neck looks okay. Looks pretty nice. As you can see over here, there's a visible scarf joint. Biggest thing for me, I think, is whatever's going on with this fretboard. Not overly keen. And the fact that this is scratched, there's this sort of a scratch in this direction. I'm not overly keen on that. The headstock looks really nice. I think the guitar in general looks pretty nice. As I say, I was kind of hoping on a bit nicer of a flame top. This one looks a tiny bit bland, but I guess it's a bit of a luck of the draw with these things, isn't it? I'm sure there's a lot of nice ones out there. I'm going to do a bit of a closer inspection of everything just to make sure it looks good, and then I'm going to play it, and hopefully it's going to sound banging, but we'll have to find out. Let's have a closer look first. Right, so this is the guitar unboxed, and I think it's a rather pretty instrument. I do really like the vintage Sunburst. I think I prefer it to the Cherry Sunburst that they also, well, the Cherry Burst that they also do it in. And to be honest, I've been wanting this instrument for months and months now. I've been looking at all sorts of reviews for this and for the humbucker one. However, I don't have any instruments with P90s. I've never played P90s, and I was really curious to see whether it's going to suit me. I very much prefer single coils to humbuckers, and I already have a 339, an Epiphone ES339 with humbuckers, and I figured I want something that's similar stylistically, definitely looks-wise, but also it's different enough sonically that I don't have too much redundancy in my lineup of instruments. Space is at a premium in a fairly small apartment, and I just want to make sure that everything I do purchase and I add to my collection doesn't overlap too much with everything else I already have. Okay, so we've done the unboxing, we had a look at the finish, we had a look at the little flaws that I found in the finish. Let's have a quick look at what it sounds like acoustically. I'm not sure about you, but I play my instruments unplugged quite a bit. I can't always plug them in, either because I don't have access to my gear or because I just can't be bothered. And it's really important for me to be able to just pick up an instrument, play it, and enjoy the process and be able to hear myself okay. So this is what this sounds like without any processing, straight out of the little Rode microphone over here. I think it sounds pretty darn good. It's pretty resonant. I think it feels really nice. The neck is a very comfortable shape for me. I like smaller necks and I like smaller string spacings because I also have smaller hands, and this is really comfortable for me. I think the neck on my Epiphone 339 is a tiny bit chunkier, and while that feels pretty comfortable and pretty good, I think I slightly prefer this smaller one. The frets are really nicely polished, they feel really good to play. I think the fret ends feel really good. I think the rolled edgeless fingerboard thing that Sire have going on is really nice. I'm not going to be doing any sort of sock test like Philip McKnight does, which I think is really cool, and it's also his thing, so I'm not going to touch that. But on the hand, it feels really nice. And treble end, bass end, they both feel really good. I don't roll my finger over the fingerboard much. I don't really play like this because my hands are small. But I think if you did, this would feel pretty nice, but for what I'm after, this feels really good. I was a little bit upset by the finish. Hopefully I can get some of the flaws out with a little bit of polish and a little bit of oil, but so far so good. Alright, let's have a look at what this lovely guitar sounds like. The signal chain is guitar through a cable into my audio interface, which is a universal audio volt 476p, I think. I'm pretty sure. From there, it's going straight into Ableton Live, and in Ableton Live, I'm using an amp sim, which is the Morgan Amp Suite by Neural DSP. I'm going to try to go through everything from clean sort of sounds all the way through to crunchy, overdriven sort of sounds, just to see what this can do with the amp sim that I use the most. Okay, let's start with a clean amp neck pickup. We're using the AC20, and it sounds like this. Cool, let's throw in some overdrive into the mix. I really like the way this guitar feels, and I think it sounds pretty sweet as well. I know my face doesn't show it, but I have resting face. It's a blessing and a curse. Right now it's a curse. So the response feels really, really nice. I tend to prefer single coils over humbuckers. It just feels like they have a snap to them that the humbucker doesn't really have. This is why I primarily record with single coil pickups, despite the 60 cycle hum. Usually, if I sit right here, where you see me right now, facing my two monitors over there, I would be getting a whole lot of 60 cycle hum, but these so far have been pretty quiet. I'll need to experiment with a little bit more gain than what I'm feeding it right now and see how that performs, but so far, pickup's pretty quiet. Tuner's really nice, neck very good to play. Finish on the guitar, finish on the neck, the frets impeccable. So all in all, bit of a wild ride, but I think there's a whole lot going on here. Cool, let's have a look at something quite a bit more high gain. Going to be spending quite a bit of time with this over the next however many weeks. I declare myself pretty happy with it. I think it sounds quite nice. It feels very good to play. And so far, honestly, it's really just the finish on the fretboard. It kind of puts me off a little bit. But in the price point, I guess you can't really get a whole lot better. I've had guitars in pretty much the same price range as this, with scratchy frets, with a neck that doesn't feel as good, with pots that don't sound very nice or come really, really scratchy. So all in all, I think maybe there is a tiny bit too much hype for these guitars. I think the hype made me expect something significantly different or significantly better. But realistically, for a 500 and a little bit pound guitar, this feels great. And I think it definitely could be a workhorse. I tend to stay away from really expensive instruments because I find that I don't play them as often. I need something that's affordable enough and potentially replaceable enough so that if anything happens with it, if there's scratches, if there's dings, if there's whatever, I can just brush it off as character rather than trying to get so concerned about potentially damaging a multi-thousand-pound guitar that I don't actually play it, or if I play it with white gloves and not actually doing what I want to do and feel like doing. So I think this is going to serve me very well. I'm very happy with pretty much most of it. So maybe if the internet hype would have been a little bit less, I think I would have been a bit more open-minded to the scratched fretboard and the few splatters of paint and things like that. But I guess with budget instruments, it's a bit of a luck of the draw situation. Sometimes you're going to get something that's impeccable and absolutely 100% a steal. And I still think this very, very good value for money. I think the flaws are more than tolerable. And for what I need, especially given that it's probably not going to leave the studio or not going to leave the studio much, I think it's a great guitar, and I'm hoping to write with it as much as I've been writing with my other instruments. Anyway, that's all from my first impressions video. If you're interested in more music related content, you might like my video 5 mistakes to avoid when buying your first electric guitar, unless you already have your first electric guitar, in which case they might not be relevant to you. But you can find that video up here somewhere. And until next time, have a good one.